the Wah and Low Podcast.
Hey guys, so before we get started with episode 9 today, I want to provide a little bit of a disclaimer. This episode deals with particularly sensitive subject matter, such as depression and suicide. Neither Danny nor I claim to be mental health experts on these topics, and I figured I just wanted to give Danny this platform to tell his story, and hopefully his message will resonate with some of the listeners today. And I figured I'd just drop this too. If you ever feel like you're in a dark place and want to talk to someone, you can hit up the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. They're available 24 hours a day, and they speak English and Spanish. Not sure what other languages, but it's all good. And their number is 800-273-8255. Again, their number is 800-273-8255. Oh, God. Enjoy the episode. Hello. Welcome to the Wah and Low podcast, but for now, it's just Wah. Today on the mic, we have my good homie, Danny Key. Say what's up, Danny.
What's good? What's good with you?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's weird because, I haven't seen you personally, face to face, but, back when Boston, we were dancing on Crisscross, and we the vibes. So yeah, glad we were able to dance together. Actually, for the first time, I think.
Were we?
Yeah, on stage together.
Oh damn! Wow, that's crazy. I think you've come a long way since your freshman year, and I was a senior.
Bro, you always say this every time we're at any UPro party, and then I'm talking to someone, whether it be like literally any girl or like any person, you'd be like, this guy, man, he has grown so literally every time. But
yeah, I got you, bro. I'm your hype man. I'll always be your wingman.
My unwarranted hype man. But yes, thank you. Yes, I appreciate that too. And I guess a little preface, Danny has been in the Boston community dancing. He went to BU undergrad, and now he's working in the Boston area. And he's been dancing ever since. No, not ever since postgrad, because you did a stop in Korea. But ever since you came back, you've been just chilling in the Boston area. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Started dancing in freshman year with UPro. It was like my spring semester, and then 4 years later. Lived in Korea for about a year. I was on a team called Zero Back, and then came back to Boston, and I kind of toned it down with dancing just because I want to focus more on my career. So currently on a team called NA.
Shivers.
NA.
God damn, man. Yeah, it's awesome to hear. You're like, me personally, you were one of the first people I kind of knew about. So quote unquote, as I was getting started in the Boston collegiate community, you were kind of like one of the OGs. But I'm glad we've gotten to get to know each other, despite our age gap and never having been on the same team. Despite that, we became and remain homies. So awesome to have you on the podcast, man.
No, thank you for having me, bro.
Of course. So I guess let's start off by saying, obviously you were in quarantine. What have you kind of been doing? What have you kind of been, into? Just give us a glimpse as to what your daily life is. Are you working from home, or I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, I've been working from home. Since lockdown, it was kind of hard to adapt at first. I didn't know how to take it with all this free time. I still had fun, There was a lot of drinking involved, with friends through Zoom or FaceTime. Got into raving this year. I'm not gonna hide that. So we would always be streaming rave-a-thons and whatnot. But recently, I've kind of toned that down quite a bit. Especially cut down all the alcohol. Yeah, no, it's something that that I enjoy with friends, but it's really not the same when you're just FaceTiming and you're in your room alone drinking.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep. No, I completely understand that. It's like when you don't have a screen, you're just drinking alone in your own home alone.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I feel that, man.
yeah, and then, just like binge eating, ended up gaining like what, 6 pounds.
Hey,
But
man.
it's all right though. I burned that back. I've lost 6 pounds again because I started just getting back into shape. Um, I think that's just been like keeping me sane throughout all this, just like exercising, and then you know, I started reading a book called Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami.
Oh, you got it. Nice,
Yeah, I
nice,
did.
nice.
So I just started, and so just trying new things uh, while in quarantine. So I'm kind of like enjoying myself right now. Pretty chill.
Dude, that's awesome to hear. Honestly, I feel like, um, I should really check up on my friends more because, we are, in a sense, we're all alone, but the opportunity to be connected is, ever present. And, I'm glad to see that you're doing your stuff, you're finding your rhythm, and, you're still finding the means to socialize, which I think is definitely like so important during this time. But yeah, looks like you've got like a lot of your bases covered ever since you like started quarantine. What book or what website did you get your book from, by the way?
Oh, I just got it off of Amazon. Yeah.
Oh, nice,
Uh,
nice.
so
Danny, today, do you want to tell us a little bit about the topic you chose to talk about on the podcast?
yeah, actually, just while brainstorming, my roommate actually suggested me to talk about mental health. Just along the lines of recently, I just only made it public to like a certain group of friends, but I've been more open about my mental health journey, I guess. From starting from like when I moved back to Boston from Korea post grad, and because there was a lot of stuff going on, and I'm at a good place right now, so it's been like a pretty good journey, and I thought like yeah, hopefully whoever's listening to this podcast, I feel like it could be is very relatable to especially those people who just graduated and are probably struggling through the same things, the post grad life, trying to adjust to like a different type of lifestyle, and hopefully it'll be encouraging. So I guess that's the whole point of like bringing up this topic of mental health.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And honestly, I definitely relate because I guess after post grad, both of us kind of went through that, changing of environments. You obviously went to Korea, and I just went back home, a home I hadn't really connected with in like 4 years, and not having a job. So like I definitely relate that transition was rocky for me, and like along that transition, and I wasn't really surrounded by any of my Boston friends. It was kind of lonely, but also it led me to do like so much self reflection and own analysis and really trying to be understanding of where I was mentally. But yeah, I definitely you can definitely expand way more on that. I guess as a starting question, what exactly did you notice about your mental health, and was it kind of like a gradual realization that something was going on with you? I guess I don't know too much because you've touched on it briefly during our conversations, but yeah, I guess give me some background as to like what you started feeling when.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess just to give some context, I used to be very quote unquote religious back in college. I was a Christian, like a faithful Christian boy. Never smoked, never drank, never swore, kept my V card. Uh, yeah, throughout
Oh my
like
god.
all 4 years. No, yeah, I kept it pretty straight. And my faith in general was like a huge part of my identity. It was like basically who I was. Considering like how I grew up. I grew up in like a Christian household, and both my parents are missionaries. So it was definitely like a big part of my life. But I guess sometime I still don't know how. I guess it probably started around junior year when things gradually like started to change, and where I guess I was drifting away from, my faith. Specifically, I would say like from the people in the church that I used to go to in college. Like I I don't have any beef with them. I don't hold any resentment or grudge towards them. They're really good people, nice people, but it came to a point where I guess I don't know, for some reason I kind of didn't agree with some things over there, and just I, like I kind of felt like pressure that to commit to that church like fully, like where I know some of my friends there who are like these small group leaders would pretty much be spending like what 30 plus hours a week, at church doing church things and whatnot. And I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that because, this is college for me. And being on UPro, it was like a huge step because it was jumping out of my Christian bubble. So,
Yeah, I was gonna wonder about that. Do you think that losing, I guess, kind of your church community? Yeah, actually, I have two things. I'm gonna ask
yeah,
this question.
yeah,
I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna say first that I can definitely relate to that perspective of having the people in your church like really subconsciously pushing for that commitment to God. Because I think definitely a big thing that I was raised because my mom is very Christian is that like we're only on this earth for a very short time, and while we're here, like it's not about the worldly things, but it's about like how we choose to commit to God. So I think that definitely that pressure to commit full time is definitely definitely a prevalent thing in the Christian community. And I can imagine, with dance being of the world, that was maybe kind of your biggest distraction. But I mean, then that's where I was going to lead into my next question. Do you think because you had the dance community, do you think your drifting away from the Christian community was kind of mitigated or not as bad because you had that other community as a social outlet?
I mean, I've always prioritized church
Mm-hmm.
as much as I could during my undergrad years, no matter what. Even if we had a show that day, I made sure to like still go to church.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, but what I felt like it was like subconsciously or indirectly, it felt like I had to choose one or the other. Like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like a personal realization. It was more like again from that pressure from that church that it's either one or the other. But I'm
Right.
like, why can't I do both? Like, why can't I still like grow as a Christian and still be immersed in this other bubble? At the
Mm-hmm.
same time. And again, like, I didn't want to commit all those hours only in church throughout college.
Right.
Yeah, and I would say I didn't really look at the dance community as my main support system. It was always with the church people. But sometimes it felt like it came to things where I felt like they couldn't really relate to what I was going through,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if I'm asking for advice or for help, felt like sometimes I wasn't being heard in that sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, so I guess you're talking about like when you would have those conversations with your friends in the dance community. Is that correct?
Not in the dance community, but in
Oh,
church.
okay.
Yeah, just what I was going
Mm-hmm.
through within the dance community, like the struggles and whatnot.
Right.
I felt like I was just being thrown a Bible verse and a prayer, and it was. I'm not gonna. It was a bit of a turnoff. So
Yeah, I definitely
yeah,
understand that.
yeah,
Because I guess if I ever brought up, I guess bringing it back to my home and how I was raised, if I was ever anxious or if I was going through something in my daily life that I mean I guess throughout these 20 something years I've been on this earth, I've had like just so many dynamically different experiences that have put me through way different things mentally. But because I grew up in a very religious household, it's like whatever you feel, just give it to God. And, I think that sentiment and that idea of just using God to rid myself of my problems, that I can definitely relate. That was a little bit of a turnoff to me, and I guess why I'm not as religious as I am before, or as I was before.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so after college, when I was in Korea, I still did try to go to church. I tried to find a church, but um, yeah, it got harder when I joined the team because we would have those like midnight rehearsals from like 12 to 5 a.m. like at least 3 times a week. So usually on
Right.
Sundays I'd be like asleep during the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still try to go. But I didn't really find like a good church or like a church that I felt like really connected to or that I vibed with or yeah. And so it but I guess the realization didn't hit me until I came back to Boston. It was like what summer of like 2017. Is that like 3 years ago? Damn.
So you would
Yeah.
say, yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a minute ago. Um, yeah, dude, I remember. I guess that's a sidetrack. I remember the first time you came back to Boston, or I don't know if it was like one of the first times or whatever. Um, yeah, I don't. Was it around Overdrive? I forget, but I just remember seeing you at a workshop held at Sal, like in the big black studio, and I remember seeing you with a beanie on, but your beanie was like covering your eyes, and and also you had gained just like a little bit of weight after college, or I guess at least I like last saw you. I was like, who is this guy, and why does he dance mad different? And obviously, like Korea definitely had like a big influence in the way you dance now. But I remember seeing that and was like, "That's not the Dandy Key I remember."
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I was visiting from Korea for a hot second just to for
Yes,
Overdrive. Yeah, that was like what Joseph and Katrina's
yes, yeah, that was the exact
and
one.
Trevor Takamoto.
Yep, dude, you looked like a Lego minifigure. That's how I'll always remember you as. That I, it's ingrained in my mind.
Yeah,
But
I gained 20 pounds.
But you know what? Aside from that weight gain, I didn't see anyone. All I saw was a guy that was killing that class. So good on you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, because I know
Yeah.
you officially came back to like the U.S. and Boston like that summer. Is that correct? Or
Yeah,
was it a year later?
yeah, it was that summer because what happened was, well, obviously, coming from like I guess it's typical like Asian household,
Mm-hmm.
like everyone in my family didn't like me dancing, uh,
Yeah.
or dancing full time. I would say because I basically was dancing full time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't realize how much of a toll it was taking on my aunt because I was living with both my aunt and my grandma. And at the time, well, my grandma has Alzheimer's, so I didn't realize how much of a toll it was on her for taking care of both of us because I was always out of the house dancing.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just to bring it back, you were living with your aunt and grandma in Korea.
Yeah, in Korea.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it was mainly because dance was like mainly occupying your time. That's where they kind of felt that conflict or
Yeah, because like financially, because it was just her taking care of both of us. Because
Mhm.
before I joined the team, like I was helping her out with like looking after my grandma and whatnot. But with all the like rehearsals and then all the training, all the shows and whatnot,
Right.
I was pretty much barely home. I was only when every time I came back home, it was just to sleep like throughout the day. Wake up,
Oh man.
yeah, wake up. What like my routine was like rehearsal from 12 to 5 a.m. I get home, go to bed around like 7 a.m. Probably
Oh my god, dude.
wake up around like 3, head
Jeez.
to the gym, and then grab something to eat, and then head out to take workshops from like 9 to 11, and then head straight to like a rehearsal space to like repeat all that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, it was a weird schedule, but
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Like, just because, I mean, I can never imagine just doing the 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. rehearsal plus on top of that everything else. But I definitely can relate to just being a member of the dance community, like especially with being one on more teams. Like you become, I guess, so entrenched with dance that you kind of really, really start to neglect, I guess, other things in your life. So that's definitely something I can relate with. But that schedule, like, I mean, I'm not surprised that you really like leveled up after college and really found your own like distinct, unique, I guess, style, completely different from what you found in Boston. So that's props. And honestly, like, it's really nice that you actually got to do that outside of like as you finish college. Have that experience, not really working and kind of doing your own thing in Korea, and before jumping into the workforce. But yeah, it sounds like an awesome experience.
oh yeah, it definitely was an awesome experience. I definitely like learned a lot. It really opened my eyes to like a lot of other things, and the way how it
Mm-hmm.
used to view dance. Really got me into it was like a good introduction for me to start learning like foundation and like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
freestyle with like my teammates after rehearsal. So yeah, they're even to this day like they're still my inspiration.
Yeah,
Um,
they hustle hard from
but
what I
yeah,
hear. God,
they do.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So I guess going back to your mental, like, so where are you mentally at this point or in this stage? Or actually, you can kind of go wherever you want with this. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to I guess like that when I didn't realize that it was really hard on my aunt.
mhm.
There was, I guess, like right before summer, my parents actually came to visit Korea, and my mom had a talk with me, and she's just like, "What are you doing?" You know, of course, like my parents were kind of upset. My dad was particularly upset because he's like, you know, I didn't have you go to college for those 4 years just to dance.
Mm, mhm.
The guilt was real, and even my mom was like, if this is truly what you want to do, if this is truly your passion, you need to prove it to your dad and me. And I thought hard about it. I'm like, and I realized it's really not. I realized
Mhm.
that this isn't something I wanted to do like forever, or I didn't want to keep pursuing this kind of lifestyle. Because at this point, I really didn't know what to do with my life.
Mhm.
I had like no direction in anything. So on top of that, like the rest of my family have been like pushing me to go to grad school because there's this like I don't know. I guess like typically in Korea,
Yeah.
right when you finish undergrad, you go straight to grad school.
Right.
Like
Right.
my cousin did that, and like a lot of people in my family just kept like pressuring me to go to grad school. And I was like, I don't know if I want to keep pursuing international relations because after working in DC for like a summer, I realized how much I didn't like it. But yeah, I told him straight up like, if you send me to grad school, it's just gonna be a waste of time and money because is this isn't really what I want to pursue.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I made an agreement with them that I'll go back to Boston. I'll start working and I'll figure it out. And when it comes to when I'm ready to go back to grad school, I'll do it. Or if I figure out some other alternative, I'll do it. I mean,
Yeah.
eventually, they just wanted me out of Korea, so
Right.
that's what
So I
happened.
guess yeah, no, I definitely relate to that fact as well. Maybe not to the extent uh or like to a different extent that you did, but yeah, I definitely feel like the Asian structure of education. I got that a little bit from my parents as well, of like really pushing for that grad school right after grad. I'm like, because my mom's been doing the same thing. I'm like, Mom, I'm just like, how am I gonna go to grad school if I'm paying all these loans? And
Right.
I can't, like, give me some time to try to figure it out, because like, yeah, like you said, I didn't want to waste my time on something that I wouldn't be like wholeheartedly into, like by the time like I'm in a year of grad school.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's good that you were able to, take that step and really try to push for your own path.
Yeah.
But yeah,
For
so at
sure.
that point, then you went back to Boston, was it?
Yeah, that was when
Mm-hmm.
I flew back to Boston that summer. And because I got an internship at Boston Children's through a
Mm-hmm.
friend. So that was like a starting point there. But that was where, that was where shit got real.
Right.
Because that was probably the lowest point of my life. Because the transition from like Korea back to Boston was really hard. On top of that, the Boston I knew was no longer there. Because all the
Mm,
people I was really tight with, people from UPro and like other places, they were gone, graduated, lived in different
yeah.
like states and cities, and I still knew people in the Boston dance community, but I wasn't really tight with them at all. So
Right.
yeah, I was
Who?
yeah. Sorry, what was that?
Oh no, I was just gonna ask, like, who were you living with at the time?
Actually, I got a sublet, so I was just living with random people. Got like a room to myself. It's like a basement, right behind where Sojuba is actually. So
Oh my,
yeah,
I mean that's pretty. That's a prime location. That's Fenway, man.
man, it gets loud during the weekends.
Oh god, all the like noisy white people after Red Sox games. I
Oh
can
yeah,
imagine.
yeah. Someone
Oh
had a
dude,
fight, and I had to go outside. I'm like, if you guys don't shut the fuck up, I'm calling the cops right now.
holy shit.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
was,
well, that's Boston for you.
but just transitioning back into like a, even though it was Boston, it was like a completely unfamiliar environment to me, and yeah, I was feeling like pretty lonely out there because I wasn't really tight with anyone.
Right.
uh, and eventually like it started like creeping up into my internship too, like it was affecting the way how I was working. Yeah, I guess like in terms of like mental health, it was like pretty much deteriorating, where I would be sleeping a lot, I guess I'm pretty sure like a lot of people are not like used to like this, like the 9 to 5 kind of job. But when you finish working, you get back home, you're so like mentally drained that you just
Mm-hmm.
want to like do nothing, or just watch Netflix, or just take a
Exactly.
like long ass nap.
Yeah.
Yeah, so making these sort of like adjustments, and it was pretty overwhelming. But I remember this one specific week, or this one night, where I was in my room alone,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it just hit me up until that point that I don't. It just randomly, it was like I'm not a Christian anymore. I just had that realization that night, and just like a really just that those words specifically had so much gravity in them that I remember like breaking down and crying.
So it was like, did you feel like it was a very gradual sense? Because I know you started feeling disparities with community, like you said, like in your junior year of college. So is it something that gradually faded away over time and you didn't recognize it until that moment?
Yeah, it was like gradually fading, and I guess when I wasn't at this point where I felt like I really didn't have anyone, I didn't have like a support system. I was like
Right.
completely alone. I was missing like my teammates back in Korea. Again, like with the church and everything, I didn't contact anyone from that church because I actually didn't want to go back. I didn't
Right.
really want to do anything with them. So I felt completely alone. and I guess like those words really hit me very hard. That yeah, it just like broke me pretty much, because that was my whole identity, and
Mm-hmm.
when that's no longer like your foundation, your base, it pretty much you're just like left asking yourself, who the hell am I? What am I supposed to do at this point? Almost like yeah, almost like your purpose in life is just like taken away. Like you got no purpose anymore.
Right. I yeah. I guess the whole saying about how God is supposed to be your rock, your foundation, the structure that gives you like the meaning in life. I could see how having that and also a lack of, actual human support around you can really debilitate and maybe leave you on like like where am I going? I mean, I know you still had your internship, but yeah, that sounds really rough.
Yeah, yeah, it was I guess from that point on things just like got worse actually.
Right. Did they
Uh
address that at your internship, like how you were behaving, or was it really an internal thing that you were feeling? Or
it was internal. Like I I I don't know why I do this. I tend to do this a lot. Like when shit happens, when there's like drama or something bad happens,
right.
I close myself off from people, you know. Like I don't talk to anyone. I'm not open about it. Like I prefer to shut myself off. And so even at the internship, you know, I guess they were like, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, everything's fine."
Oh.
Obviously it's not fine,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, but I I kept it private. Um, but at the same time, I felt really bad because my friend who got me that internship, she
Mm-hmm.
really vouched for me, and because I wasn't doing so well, it was making her look bad. So that just added onto the pile. Yeah, and it was like stressing me out. Like literally, like the internship itself was like what, a 15-minute walk, but I was
Mm-hmm.
always late. Just because yeah, every morning it was like a struggle to even wake up because I felt like what is the reason to wake up after that whole realization.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like it was overwhelming to the point that yeah, that I was thinking about committing suicide. uh
Oh,
yeah
man,
it
I'm glad you're here today. That really doesn't sound like a very ideal situation to go through. And I definitely know this too because definitely during my senior year, I think a lot of that pressure and a lot of me also feeling very alone in that respect because no one really knew what I was going through on all fronts, whether it was academics, whether it was school, whether it was directing. Like I think all of those issues that I had within me, I internalized them and I didn't really talk to anyone about it. So I definitely understand, and it's something that just grows and grows, and eventually, like you said, it's very debilitating. But you know, I definitely don't think I could have done that alone because I mean, at that time that I was feeling all that stuff, I was going to therapy, but and I was getting all that advice, but I I don't think I could have made it out of that hole I was in alone, especially and even from your perspective with all that um, stuff piling on. So, sorry, let me ask this to clarify. So,
yeah
you when you came back, you were doing your internship, but did you find any? I know you said you had some friends in the Boston dance community still, but did you feel like they weren't there for you, or do you feel like you just weren't close enough with them, or just tell me more about like that side of your situation?
yeah it was more of the latter. I wasn't like we all knew each other, but I wasn't really close to them, to the point I was like, willing to be vulnerable with them. I wasn't really that tight with people.
Right.
Um, yeah, again, like even to the people who were still there, that I've known since like my U Pro days.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I had that tendency to cut myself off, just internalize it. So, like I didn't really bother to reach out to anyone, except I did reach out to one person.
Mm-hmm.
Just like let him know what's going on and whatnot. Um, yeah, because remember I was like almost in tears when I was telling him this, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, um,
Yeah, and I feel that like you don't really want to burden a lot of people with the shit that's going through your mind, especially when you haven't, been around and they don't have that closeness. You're like not one of their close friends. Yeah, I
exactly.
definitely feel that.
Yeah, like I didn't want to like yeah, I really didn't want my shit like spreading out and like affecting other people.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because yeah, I've had an experience with that while I was on UPro, and it was not good. I'll just say that. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, so I tend to like internalize that more. But wait, hold on. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you were going to therapy?
That's also something I didn't really tell anyone. Yes, no, I was,
Shit.
but in reality, it was like a 3 week thing. The only people I really told about it were, I guess my mom when I came back to New Jersey, and that's just another thing. Like same here. Like I didn't really, I talked to Christine every now and then, but I didn't really want to have her be the sole person I was telling all my shit to, or other people on the team. Like if I told Nomads what I was going through, I felt like, and this is I think a very bad stigma about mental health. Like if I just felt like if I told my own teammates how I was feeling, they wouldn't respect me as a leader, and they wouldn't respect me as a dancer, because they would be like, why, if you're feeling this way, why did you put yourself through all this stuff? Why did you choose to be on another team during your senior year when it's supposed to be your last semester, your best semester? And all that kind of pressure caused me to like be like, I need to always show that I'm strong no matter what's happening to me. I can vent on my Finsta, but as far as anyone else knows, I'm fine, because I really didn't want to, put give my burden on someone else like that. So
Yeah.
yes, I did once. I did go to therapy. Still going, by the way. But yes.
Damn. Shit, I didn't know that. Yeah, because I remember you were doing a lot because you were leading Nomads, which pretty much started around that same time, and you were still on UPro. And then didn't you have your co-op too, or were you finishing like your classes?
Yeah, yeah. See, I think that first half of the year when I was like Nomads and UPro, that was fine, because I mean, work was work, but it wasn't like schoolwork. Like once I got out
Right.
of work, that was the end of work. I didn't need to do anything else. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fact that I had school, like there was always something to do. There was always my capstone. Plus, I had to commute to ink practice. I didn't have a car.
Oh
And
yeah.
then commute all the time Nomads practice. I was like, yeah. That I really did not anticipate it to be that much. But yes, that was a whole lot for me. But yes, sorry, you were saying about.
Oh no, I was like, cause man, I don't know. Again, like I don't know how you did all that, cause I don't think I was too scared to do like something like that in senior year, cause it would definitely broke me down easily.
Yeah, the thing is about that whole situation. I feel like, and I'm still dealing a lot with this now, and that's the reason why I'm going to therapy and still like talking to people, is the fact that because I internalized all my feelings and all my thoughts and focused on this image that like I need to be a leader, I need to be a member on Inc, and I need to be a productive capstone member, because I internalized all those emotions and thought that I had to fit this role that wasn't really who I was. I lost a lot of sense of self. I lost a
Yeah.
lot of, what am I, do I really like doing the things I do I really like dance anymore as much as this last year has led on to me.
Right.
And it where's I going with this? I guess, yeah, just a general loss of sense of self. Didn't really understand who I was, didn't really understand why I was doing the things I do, settling into all these routines, going to practice day in and day out. And, once my schedule cleared up, I took a look back at what the last senior year was, and I was like, what what just happened. Like I didn't process any of it. Like, and it took me a long time to really try to find who I was again. And being at home has helped. Just being surrounded by my family and just, I guess, things that keep me grounded.
Yeah. Damn. Good for you though,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, thank you, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that was in short my kind of journey with mental health. I know we would kind of do like the half and half, but I think it's still good that I was able to hop in. But anyways, back to you.
Yeah.
So I know you were in that really bad place where you didn't really have anyone around you. Like, did you? At what point did it start to shift? Was it kind of a passive thing where things just you kind of persevered and things got better over time, or was there one moment that stood out that kind of said, "Look, I need to reprioritize some stuff."
Yeah. Yeah, good question. When it was so hard and I was thinking about committing suicide, man, I even remembered, goddamn, like I was Googling like about carbon monoxide. I was like Googling like ways to escape, and it really didn't occur to me. Like it was just weird that I got to this point, or how suicide became this like option that seemed some sort like seemed comforting. Like if it gets too hard, you have an escape button. That kind of feel.
Right.
It was just like it was so weird and like foreign that that this kind of thing would occur to me. But I guess like what I ended up doing was I had one more month in my internship, but I actually quit early because I felt like the more stress that would get piled, I don't know, I'm definitely going to break at that point because I didn't know how much I could take. So
Right.
yeah, I quit a month early, and eventually I moved out of my sublet and moved to a different apartment. And starting, starting then, living, I joined what like Crewnex back then. So I guess I had like sort of a new routine while like still looking for jobs, and like doing other like temp jobs and whatnot. But I felt like I was just breathing. I felt like a zombie. Like
Going
I
through the
would,
motions.
yeah. Like I didn't have any sense of time or anything. Um, Actually, what's interesting is that my roommate brought this up. Like, there's something called dissociation, where you're
Ooh.
kind of like floating. You're like you don't really have like a sense of time. Like or if you kind of feel you have this, there are several symptoms, but like one of them is like you feel like completely numb. There's also like anxiety and whatnot, but I guess to some degree I had something like that because again, like my sleep schedule was like completely off. Some days I'll sleep like a shit ton, like 12 hours. Other days it will be like 3 hours. Sometimes I you can't remember certain things, which is also like a symptom from dissociation, where people would ask me, "What'd you do last weekend?" and I'd be like, "I don't know." And it's
Oh my
because,
gosh, dude.
yeah, because I guess like you tend to block those things out, as like a defense mechanism.
Right.
So yeah, like I was just like basically going through the motions. I didn't know what I was doing. I was yeah, I felt like I was just like breathing at this point. Uh, and um, let's see, I ended up getting into a relationship, like a toxic relationship, for like 6 months. Which yeah, I mean, getting into the relationship at first, it kind of helped, but
Yeah,
there
man.
was
I remember the tail end of that. I just, you know what? But yeah, I will say I'm glad you're not in that relationship now because I got the vibes from what you would tell me. But to Crewnex, do you think Crewnex kind of help you open up more socially? And because I mean, I can imagine like and be open to a sort of relationship.
um
I mean, I'm not saying those two
yeah.
are intercorrelated, but like I don't know, was that like a step or progression in the right direction for you? I know you were still feeling dissociated, but at least you were kind of in touch socially. Did you feel that way, or what was it like for
Yeah,
you?
I mean, like Crewnex, I joined Crewnex, like not like I didn't really have an intention of like, oh, I want to be a better dancer, because that wasn't my goal when I came back to Boston. Because if that was my goal, I would have stayed in Korea. I would have like fought for myself and really like stood my ground to stay in Korea no matter what. Right. But yeah, like I joined Crewnex to try something different, like a whole different style. And I was more in a position to like learn and grow, but I didn't really think seriously of it. But in terms of opening up, I still had a really hard time opening up in general because I felt like I actually didn't fit in. And what what kind of like again like when you're like going through all this, and again like for me, when my going along the lines of my whole sense of identity has like crumbled and whatnot, I felt like a complete child not knowing how to do things anymore, like communication. This one time, like a director of Crewnex Junior came up to me and asked me if I could be part of eBoard, and I just remember like my anxiety was going through the roof.
Oh.
Because I was like, I'm not here to, like, trying to, like, lead or anything. Like, dance is not, like, my priority or anything and
Right.
whatnot. It's like, it's kind of, you're asking something from me it's a little too much, But I don't know why I couldn't communicate that well with him.
Yeah.
I think I was
Sorry.
scared.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna cut in. Like, I think it's weird that someone, if I knew what you were going through at the time, I think like an e-board position would be like the last thing I would ask someone if they were going through, all of it mentally. And I guess that is kind of telltale about how you weren't really open maybe with your teammates. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he was asking me for throughout the whole season. He was asking me like just tips and just like advice on like how does an organized team run, because he himself has never been like on a like an organized team with like a specific e-board and everything. So he was really willing to like learn and whatnot. And so I was just basically sharing him like how YPro did things and whatnot, just sharing my opinions. How like having like a structure and practice. So I guess like from sharing all that, like he thought it was a good idea to have me be on e-board, but on the other end, I was not ready for it. I did not want to do it because of of all the stuff that I was going through. But again, I don't know why I was, scared to communicate that with him. But eventually, I quit the team. Yeah.
Right. I guess it's good that you got that insight, or you were able to provide him with that insight on what organized teams are like. So I guess you gave him that.
Yeah. I hoped it helped in some way, but I mean, I was just merely just sharing my opinions. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but when I quit the team, eventually, like, that was around the same time I was dating my ex. And so eventually I stopped dancing for like 6 months, the entire time I was with her.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say like after we broke up, I think that time period was when I started surrounding myself with more like people who I became very close to, to this day. It was, like right after my breakup, I remember one of, what like my best friend Gordon. I was in bed at like 10 o'clock at night, and it was on a Friday, and he called me up. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just
Yeah.
at home in bed." He's like, "On a Friday night?" So he dragged me out to the club.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome.
No, but he always checked up on me like every week, and then eventually Brandon, like my current roommate slash best friend, he also checked up on me too. And eventually, that was the same summer that we started hanging out.
Yep.
I went to
Yep.
your birthday party at
Yeah.
Wonder Bar.
Bro, that was weird.
Oh,
Oh man.
took so many
whole summer-
shots.
Yeah. Bro, I mean, I honestly don't remember that either. I think that whole it was like a string of 3 weeks in the middle of July where it was. But yeah, no, we definitely got a lot of closer back then. We were chilling like all the time. I remember like it
Yeah,
was
bro.
us. Yeah, like Brandon, Christine, Deanna. That was honestly a pretty fun time. And
Yeah.
I mean, not gonna lie, I was really feeling, I guess opening up about my own experience during that time too. I think it was that year when I first joined UPro, and I was like a year in, but going and transitioning into a completely new set of people and a new set of friends was also really hard for me. And I think by the summer I was left just really, I was also feeling in a sense like really alone and kind of really reevaluating like what is the worth of these friends I've just made on this new team. I'm not bashing them because I'm still good friends with a lot of them now, but at the time I was like, how many can I really trust these people? Like, are these people really down and really down to be a close friend? But when I remember when we took that walk all around Boston, it was like you, me, and Brandon. I was like, this feels like mad natural, and I can talk and conversate. Like this doesn't feel forced. Like it just feels like I'm hanging out with a homie, and I think that was something really valuable and I cherished, and something like all our collective friendships that made that summer a really good summer. So
Yeah.
yes, I will say that.
For real.
That's awesome.
All the nights that we drank at your place,
Oh,
puking.
dude, remember, dude, do you remember when we pre-gamed? It was like I was like 7 shots deep, and then we went over to Roxana's for I think it was like one of Aaliyah's birthdays.
Yeah,
But then I left in an hour in because I was gone, man.
Wait, you did?
Yes, nobody remembers that. I left like 45 minutes into when the party started.
Oh,
and I threw up on a tree. Yeah. Dude, oh, it was really bad. Like sorry, another sidetrack. The Uber dropped me off like a block away from my house because I was like, I can't be in this car anymore. Let me get out. And I threw up on the sidewalk, and then some cop ran up on me, and he was like, "Yo, are you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just live over there." And he was like, "All right, make it home safe." And I'm like, "All right." It was really bad. But yes, yeah, that whole thing happened.
Oh shit, I don't remember that. I think it's because we went over to Conan's later.
Probably.
Conan went home early too, and then we're like, "Yo, Conan, what are you doing right now?" He's like, "I'm on my couch watching anime." I was like, "All right, cool, we're coming over." And then we ended up drinking more.
Oh man. That is awesome to hear though. Like and I guess you were kind of mentioning it, but it's awesome that you really did find I guess those friends or just people in your life that happen to be there at a time where you're probably, just getting out of relationship, being really transitional as well. Like people like Gordon, me, Brandon, and all those people that are around you. So would you say that definitely like really helped you out of your funk or whatever you were feeling?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm no therapist. I'm not like an expert or anything, but I'm just speaking out of my own like personal experience.
Right.
I think just really surrounding myself with, like a group of people who I felt like I felt really close to, and who like I felt like they genuinely cared about me too. And like the timing couldn't have been perfect, like the way how we got together, because that same summer we were
Yeah.
all going through breakups.
Yeah, it was.
Everyone was breaking up
Wow.
left and right.
Yeah, dude, it was the summer of sadness.
Yo,
Oh my
for real.
God.
I still remember one time this like vivid image of Brandon like sitting on the sidewalk, looking down, looking so depressed,
No.
like with the moonlight like hitting on him.
Man, I was about to break out on Brian Puspos. Own it. Oh my God.
Yo, free. He was wearing a denim jacket. He could have just stood up and start doing like a video right there.
Timing's too perfect. Maybe put on some Sabrina Claudio, whatever you like. With Tien like appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean it was crazy. Like the friendships I was able to build from that summer, and yeah, and not only that, like I that was when I moved in with Brandon and
hmm
Norman Dean. No,
Rest in
Norman.
peace. Just kidding, he's still alive. But
Nah.
yeah.
Yeah, Norman Dean, my homie, my kuya, you know.
My boy.
Yeah, Norman Dean especially has had like a big impact on my life too. You know, because usually like Brandon's like with Deanna, so
Yeah.
he was usually not home. So it was just
hmm
like Norman Dean and me just hanging out, and we got really close. And yeah, he was really like an older brother to me, and just like teaching me a lot of stuff. And I still look up to him, you know. And it was because of him that I started, you know, really thinking about, all right, I need to get my shit together. And like, how can I rebuild myself back up again? I remember one time, like, he was telling me about, like, on his flight back from Seattle, I think, back to Boston, he was visiting his girlfriend back then. But he said he saw this girl sitting next to him reading a book called The Power of Habit. So out of curiosity, you know, I bought the
That's the
book.
book you read, right?
Yeah, and yeah, and I would say that that book in general, like it I'm not gonna go like cliche and say it changed my life, but it really did help, you know, in terms of looking at things like in different perspective, or I guess like it was a good way for me to try to figure out a start. Cause you know, like when you're in post grad and whatnot, you're always thinking about, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, you know, I want to get a new
hmm
job, I want to travel, blah blah blah. The list is just really long, you
Yeah.
know, and you're just not sure where to start. Well, for me at least.
No, I definitely say I will agree.
Yeah.
That is, I think, and the biggest sentiment I will have, and something that still resonates with me today. Like I feel like the road to college graduation, undergrad at least, it's like as soon as I walked across that stage, got my diploma, all the fanfare and and the screaming, it faded away as I was moving forward into the future. But then past that, it was just like it was all gray. Like the life became so open ended, not really structured. And I think you were maybe hinting about this about some of the stuff your book said, but yeah, there was really no structure, and it was overwhelming just to be like, what do I do now?
Yeah, exactly. Because right after graduation, you're just like, okay, now what? You know,
hmm
it's so like underwhelming. You know, that moment after graduation.
Right.
You know, especially if you don't have a job like right after graduation or anything.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, you know, I had to think to myself. I'm like, okay, I know I want to do all these things, but this is too much. I gotta like start somewhere off small. You know,
Yeah.
figure out what is it can I manage at this moment, and exercise definitely popped out. Like was the first thing in my head because I really, I mean, I was pretty fluffy back then, but yeah, you know. But
Yeah, a little got a little
yeah,
samgyeopsal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, a little pork belly. There we go.
yeah, down like the double chin. I still got the double chin, sadly. But
You know
yeah,
what? You working towards progress. That's all that matters.
working towards it all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, like I hated how I felt. You know, I was tired of the way I was living. You know, just like sporadically like sleeping at like random hours, binge eating and whatnot. So I knew that like working out in general, it will give me like some stability and some structure and like good sense to me, like to have a goal at least that I could start from. That so I started prioritizing that above anything, even above dance. So it was a lot of like I started working out around what January of last year. It was like a New Year's kind of like resolution thing, and yeah, since that past year, it was like a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out what works best for me. Trying like I did 1,000 calorie deficit during the beginning, which I lost a lot of weight in like 2 to 3 weeks, but it was in a very unhealthy way, because that's you're basically starving yourself. And so I had this whole yo-yo dieting going on because for like what for the first couple of months I was like looking pretty good. I was like losing weight, and then in the summer like I kind of like fell off the wagon and then got fluffy again. It was it was a lot of trial and error, and I had to really think, not like in a short term, but on a long term. Again, like what can I manage, uh, and what can I do to make it work for the long term? So instead of like trying to think about like a diet, like I really don't like that word diet because it just seems so short term. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go on a diet. It's like for how long,
Yeah.
and then you fall back into your normal routine. Which no, like you have to think about like in the long run of what's gonna keep sustaining you, what's gonna keep you going. So it was a lot of like research on my end, trying to like figure it out, and then trying to figure out my own body, and
Yeah. No, sorry, Adam.
yeah,
I'm gonna cut in, but I think it's really great that and I think the trial and error part is pretty important because you ended up finding the schedule or the plan that really works for you. Because I feel like, for me, a lot of the time, if I work out with low, like I feel like the priorities in my mind of where I want to be and what I want my body to look like are different than probably what low does. So like having that disparity, uh, like I think I need trial and error to figure out what works for me. But the fact that you found that, and the fact that you were able to kind of make a schedule that works on your own time, and something that you're actually able to consistently complete and keep up with it it becomes like on your checklist in your mind, you always have that thing that you're able to check off and complete and say you did. But yeah, that's really awesome that you were able to find that structure.
yeah, and on top of that, I had like a positive reinforcement behind that as well. Like it was actually through my parents, because it was around like last October when I went to Hawaii to visit them. Like we went on a family vacation because I haven't seen them in 2 years at that point, since Korea. And yeah, that was like one of the most refreshing times of my life. And the relationship between, my family and I was like so different, especially with my dad and me, because that's a whole nother story. But I've had like a very rocky, like not a good relationship with my dad, you know.
I definitely relate. Podcast part two.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of bad blood, there was so much drama between us. And so I was actually feeling a little nervous when I was going to Hawaii because I wasn't sure how, like, oh, is this gonna be okay? Like, but it was very different. It surprised me because the way how he treated me was completely different now. Like, I felt like he recognized me in a sense. I guess, like maybe it's because I started working, I finally have a job and everything, that he finally recognized me. And he was more patient with me, more listened to me a lot more. And I'm just like, who are you? Yeah. And I even tricked him to having a drink with me one time.
Oh man. Wait, what would you spike his drink? What did you do?
No, one night, my mom was tired from jet lag, so she stayed in the Airbnb. So it was like just my dad and me just walking around like Waikiki area, and then I'm like, "Hey, Dad, there's this like drink from Hawaii that a traditional drink that came from Hawaii actually." It's like, "Oh yeah, what is it?" It's like it's called a Mai Tai. You want to try it?
Wait, did the Mai Tai really originate in Hawaii? Is that where it's
Honestly,
from?
I don't know. I just heard it was a Hawaiian drink.
Bruh, you should have been like, yeah, this is a traditional Hawaiian drink. They call it the Aloha Hennessy, and just brought out like a handle of Hennessy and just gave it to him. That'd been so fun. That's so funny though.
I
So he drank
know.
with you.
Yeah,
Is that
he
it?
yeah, he did. We got two of them and then I tried it. I'm like, "Oh my god, there's a lot of alcohol in this." I'm like, "Dad, you got to be careful. I think we should not drink this because there's too much alcohol." And he's like, "No, it's okay." And he just kept drinking. So he drank like half of it and he gave the rest to me. And
Oh
I ended up
man.
drinking up like pretty much all of it. I got a little tipsy, but I was able to hide it from my dad.
Dude, that's pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
It's awesome that you're able to really establish that connection with your parents. Yeah, and part of me, I'm going through the same stuff too.
Yeah.
Not only because I'm spending so much time at home,
Right.
but I think it really is just like a part of growing up and then seeing your parents as people, I guess, and being able to understand them and be on that common ground. Like, I mean, I would say, admittedly, like when I was in high school and everything before that, like it was just a lot of yelling, a lot
Yeah.
of disagreement, a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
not being on the same page with my parents. But now that we're not yelling, it's like, oh, we're talking now,
Right?
and like having a conversation. And that's like when you have that, it's like really nice because then it opens up all these doors. Now me personally, I want to know like everything about what my parents were like and what they do, But it's all about establishing that connection first, and I'm glad you had
Exactly.
that too.
Yeah, definitely. Like after Hawaii, when I came back to Boston, I felt like I wanted to be better for them. I
Mm-hmm.
had this like new sense of like motivation. And so that was when I started working out again. And
Nice.
again, like at this time I was still reading that book, The Power of
Mm-hmm.
Habit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of trial and error. But ever since October, I managed to keep it consistent. Like even if I fall off for like a couple days, I'd still be like okay, not like beat myself up over it, not try to like start from scratch, but like just keep pushing forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, like ever since then, like I've kept exercising like consistently, and eventually it was actually affecting me in my own workplace. In terms of I felt more productive. My coworkers were recognizing me, including my like supervisors and the higher ups. Yeah, like it was like building back up my confidence and my self esteem, and like as I continually make this into a habit, then eventually I want to start. I'm starting to like want to tackle other things in life and like coming up with a solid plan of what I want to do in my life. So yeah, yeah, it's been pretty awesome, and especially while being continued, to be surrounded by like a solid group of friends, who are always supportive, who are not toxic, but they're always there to lift you up, even though they shit on you because they love you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You can
like
only be your real friends will be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like to just joke and roast each other without being like, "Hey, why'd you say that? That's not really nice." You know what I mean?
yeah,
That
for
is
real.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think I was about to ask the question, but I think you kind of answered it. I was gonna ask, where are you now with your journey? And I think you're definitely touching on, I mean, journey as in mental health, but I think you're definitely mentioning the support group you have, like not only with your friends and your family, but also, the power of maintaining that schedule for you has really been, maybe your pillars as to why you're thriving right now, I guess. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, like I still have many flaws. I'm still a work in progress. I'm not like, like, oh yeah, I've reached to this next level. I'm not kind of like that. It's still like a work in progress, and in terms of making that effort to, you know, pull through a workout on each day, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do this, but I have to do it. Well, I mean, I don't do that. Like, I don't know if you heard of David Goggins.
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, David Goggins was used to be in the Navy SEALs, but when he first tried to apply for it, they said that he was too heavy. He was actually a big guy. He was like 200 something pounds, and he had to lose 106 pounds to meet the weight limit, and he only had 3 months until the deadline. So he calculated that he would have to burn like 3,500 calories a day, and he actually did it.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, like, I mean, it was not healthy. Like, he talked about how like it really broke his body, but like,
Yeah, you got to go through some drastic measures to make that happen.
yeah, but David Goggins is like a tough motherfucker. Just there's this like one quote that I remember is like, uh, just because you're tired doesn't mean you're done. You're done when you finish your workout. So like I would listen to his podcast all the time, just so that like I would be like, come on, let's do it, like just to give me that boost. Yeah, and there's still other like aspects, not just like working out, but other aspects in my life that I need to like work on. But again, I'm taking baby steps, in terms of, yeah, in terms of mental health, like I feel so much better, compared to like back then. And I mean, during the lockdown, I had to like take a break from social media just because, I had to like really reevaluate and think, and just reflect in general, just, being okay with where I'm at. Everyone's pacing is going to be different. Even though, my pacing in general, I feel like it's kind of slow, but, it's okay to go at your own pace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I definitely I agree with that sentiment too. And a lot of things I'm learning throughout my mental health journey as well is the importance of, everyone is on their own form of path, whether they're just starting on it or whether they're like midway or working towards an inevitable goal. But something that really grounds you and something that is really valuable in keeping yourself consistent is making sure that you do a mental check-in, like I'm here right now, just be like in the moment, and regardless of what path you're on, just being present is something that like is so powerful and really helps to alleviate um I guess stress and anxiety. I was going to say before, like I think it's really awesome to hear your story because I think not a lot of people, one, have the courage to speak about it candidly, but two, are able to go through like such a transformative journey. Like by the time you were talking about like the friends you met in 2018, like I was grinning OD because it's so refreshing to hear that progression to who you were before and where you are now, and that's props. And I'm really glad that you found that sense of rhythm and are self-aware to the fact that like you're realizing I have made this much progress, but there's still more I could do, and that's something that I think everyone can learn from, no matter who's listening. So yeah, that's awesome, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's uh I don't know if you heard of DPR Live.
Yeah, they're K-pop.
No,
Is it
they're like
is K-pop?
a collective.
Okay,
So
okay, okay.
they're not like yeah, they don't really identify as K-pop, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's just they're it's a it's pretty cool like what they do. They have a lot of artistic freedom because they're like kind of their own thing. And there's this one song called Disconnect, and the guy, they were talking about like the story behind that song, about how in terms of disconnect, it's about whatever your crazy drama you have in your life or whatever bad something bad that happens in your life, you have this tendency, this natural tendency to want to escape, want to run from it, but you can't really escape it fully. You would eventually, like, you would have to figure out how you would face it, and that is part of growing up. There's, even like through all that, like that turmoil, there's always like a silver lining. And yeah, I don't know, it that song really resonated me a lot. And I really hope that whoever's listening, whoever's going through like a similar situation, I hope like this really encourages them to not give up, uh, to keep pushing forward, no matter what. Try to like start somewhere, and that we're not alone. This is like it's very common. Uh, like I felt like in college we were kind of like spoiled in a way, and then we get into the real world and we're just like fuck, like I guess like for some people they don't have that same support system that they used to. So it's yeah, shit gets hard, but um, just gotta go through it. It's all part of growing
Exactly.
up.
Exactly. I will drop this. It's a National Suicide Prevention Lifeline telephone number that you could call. Whoever's listening, I know this is a lot. We've touched on like a lot of different topics, but if you feeling anything, there's always the hotline 1-800-273-8255. There, no matter how alone you might feel, there's always better options than what you're considering. And I know Danny can definitely attest to this, especially because where he came from in the past couple of years, and where he is now. And I think it's so important to have those resources available and knowledgeable wherever you at in point of life. Sorry, I'm just gonna say we're at an hour and 19 minutes, which is like a pretty solid time. And at this point, I think I would usually ask like the person, what's next, or like what's on their plate. But you already did quite a lot of that in terms of again, sticking to your schedule, working out, doing the rave Zoom calls and whatnot. So that's awesome to hear. I didn't really have to prompt you, so that's nice. One thing I will ask though is, do you have any recommendations? I know you brought up The Power of Habit as a book, but do you have any other recommendations on terms of media that you're really enjoying right now?
Yeah, like you said, media.
Yeah, just like any book, movie, music, whichever.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, like in terms of like personal development, like in terms of podcasts, like Tony Robinson, um, he's a he's a pretty solid dude. I mean, he's really good. Like a lot of his listening to him, like is always refreshing. Tony Robbins definitely. I said Tony Robinson, but it's Tony Robbins. Uh, but yeah, I mean, other than the power of habit, who else is there? There's also like Ed Milet. He's also another good one. Um, yeah, just I basically just like went on YouTube, like I guess searched up like personal development, or just randomly came across like a video of a guy sharing like a list of like personal development books. And I can't really remember who he was, but he was sharing about his own story, like post grad, because he's a filmmaker and he's like, like I didn't know what to do and blah blah blah. So I started reading these books, and so yeah, like that was like a starting point for me. But yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, David Goggins is a good one, uh, and um, yeah, I mean, I don't really have much for now. Like, just been sticking to like one by one, but usually like, you know, listening to other podcasts as well. Like, so I also really love David So, like David So
Yeah,
comedy.
he keeps it always 100.
Exactly, and I like like when he was also going through that weight loss journey, it was also around the
Yeah.
same time I was as well. So even listening to like his like own experience like in through his podcast, that itself like was like really uplifting for me too. Yeah.
Boy's come a long way too. He used to be very husky, but now, or I guess fluffy. But he's really like cut a lot of that down, and he's doing his own major moves too. But yes, Tony Robbins, Gawkins, you said
David Goggins. Yeah.
David Goggins. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll be sure to look them up. But yeah, all right, yeah, I think this is a good stopping point. Like again, I really appreciate having you on the podcast. Like I think this is probably one of the like standout ones. Obviously, like you've heard the stuff I've talked about before. It was more lighthearted, but I'm glad that I think this talk about mental health and just a quote unquote taboo topic, especially in Asian American culture, I can
Right.
definitely expand on that with making podcasts in the future. So you definitely helped in a big way to opening that door whenever I release this. So yeah, seriously, dude, thank you for sharing.
For sure. Oh, and I guess like one more thing to add is especially during this time with all the craziness that's going on in the world right now, like also be very mindful of your mental health also, because I know that when all this shit blew up, it was pretty overwhelming for all that, all the posts, all the information just like throwing at your face. It's okay to like just like put your phone down for a bit and just like recollect. Just make sure to check your mental health, especially during this time.
Exactly. It can be super stressful to get all that information fed to you, but like you said, there are always ways to just disconnect, unplug whenever you need it, and there's nothing wrong with that. No one's obliging you to necessarily post anything. While it does help, I don't know where we're going with this, but yes, I will agree. Mental health is definitely a big topic that's relevant today. Yeah, cool stuff, man. Okay. Unless you have any last words, I think we might end it.
I mean, I'm pretty much all set, but yeah, thanks, bro. Thanks for letting me do this and sharing my story.
Yes, it was an honor. I can't wait to edit this. I'll probably do that right after this. But yep.
Alright.
Let's say in 3, 2, 1, stop recording. That was the test. But
Okay.
yeah, let's do 3, 2, 1.
Stop.